thanks for joining us today on the Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at Man Blitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks, guys.
Hey, guys. Welcome into an episode of the Man Blitz. You got Andrew up top, you got Kwesi on the bottom over there, and you got me, Jeremy. We're going to do a college football recap, specifically, mostly, anyway, on the SEC. Before we do that, even though it's the morning time, it's Sunday morning.
We do this for you guys.
You
guys are causing us to morning drink.
As our close friend Becker would say, you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
Yes, sir. I got a Heineken waiting for me when NFL game hit off.
Oh yeah, NFL.
So, real quick before we jump into any of the SEC things, we have to mention the Oklahoma loss to Kansas State. And Jeremy brought it up. I was like, "Oh, let's just do the SEC." He's like, "No, hold on a minute." And I'd almost forgotten about this, but that's ugly. They were up 35-10, I believe, at one point. Like I think it was in the third quarter. And Kansas State rallied back to beat them by a field goal, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, what's bad is Kansas State outscored Oklahoma 17-0 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was due to Spencer Rattler throwing 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
3 interceptions to 4 touchdowns. I mean, like, he's got the talent. He's going out there like a gunslinger. He looks good, but he's just gotta fine-tune those skills a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
I'll say definitely a big upset, but I'm not gonna say a great upset because Kansas State is not a slouch team, but they're not supposed to beat Oklahoma State or Oklahoma, I should say. But Kansas State is not sorry at all. Never been.
No,
well,
they're sneaky.
They are sneaky. And when we talked about right before we jumped on, we were kind of talking about playoffs, and Kwesi did the playoffs, because it's
playoffs.
Week 1 SEC, Week 3 for some of these other schools, and it is a little too early. However, when you take an L and you're one of the playoff favorites, they basically have to run the table, it looks like, I would imagine now, to be in that conversation.
And, I mean, they got Baylor in their way. They got Texas in their way. Texas Tech ain't no slouch this year, don't
Both
look like.
Both of them played pretty good.
Yeah. Let's talk about that game real quick. Texas Tech, 63-56.
Mm-hmm.
I kept flipping over to that game, and one overtime, and man, that was just where was the defense? That's like your prototypical Big 12 game. A lot of scoring. Where's the defense?
Yeah.
I will say though, those are fun to watch. They really are. But down here, like down here in the South, we're watching and we're seeing these guys get thrown on and ran on, and we're just like, oh.
It's fun to watch, man.
It's
fun. It kind of just like that Oklahoma game we were talking about. Texas was up on Tech quite a bit, and then they got outscored 21-7 in the third quarter. Texas Tech coming back.
Yeah.
Looked good.
But Texas Tech always had that high-powered offense, so
yes,
in a matter of seconds they can come back and score 2 touchdowns on you.
No doubt.
Well, speaking of Texas Tech, how about we move on to one of their former head coaches and his huge upset in the SEC this week?
It's probably one of the biggest storylines coming out of this first SEC week is the Mike Leach air raid being successful against the defending champs.
So can I set up the narrative real quick?
Yes.
So you have a new head coach coming into an SEC school that has not been good in a few years, not since Dak Prescott left, really. Like 2015, 2016, something like that. And then let's add on the fact that let's add on the fact that he had a short training camp due to COVID, and he installs an all-new air raid offense and comes out and beats the defending national champions in his first game.
Yeah.
It was impressive. Costello was like, 60 pass attempts?
He threw 60 passes.
I think I saw where he broke the college record for most passing yards in a game. Yeah.
And this is coming on the heels of Joe Burrow being the most impressive college quarterback we've ever seen. Like, what? How?
It's that air raid, man. That air raid was impressive. And you'd think if any team could defend it, it was going to be LSU at DBU. But like you had spoken about earlier, Andrew, off air, was that they were missing quite a few of their key players in the back of their defense.
Yeah, Derek Stingley was sick, and I think Jeremy said he was even hospitalized for a short time. So, of course, we wish him a speedy recovery. Can't wait to see him back on the field. He's one of the best DBs in college football.
No doubt.
And his replacement, I believe it was his replacement, it was one of the DBs, got ejected for a targeting call early in the game. So that just kind of set up the recipe for success for Mississippi State, just keep throwing the ball on these guys. But still, it just don't feel right. Shouldn't have happened.
True. What kind of implications do you think? I know LSU is going to probably be out of the top 10, but what kind of implications is this going to have for Mississippi State?
I say they probably at least crack the top 20 for sure. I mean, I would probably see them sitting about 17, 16.
Yeah, I would bump them up quite a bit. They're definitely in the top 20 now. Of course, you can't go in and defeat the LSU Tigers ranked top 10 and not crack it.
At Death Valley.
Yeah. But Mississippi State did look good. I think one of the questions that we had in this game for LSU was how would Miles Brennan do replacing Joe Burrow? And I would say it didn't look terrible, but you definitely saw the difference.
Yeah.
He was 27 of 46, 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks, and his quarterback rating was 32.2. It's one of the lowest I've seen so far in a box score. And I got to watch a good majority of the game, and, it looks like they got taken out of what they were wanting to do offensively because of Mississippi State being able to score so much and not really having an answer for it. So their rushing attack kind of went away.
Did you say 27 of 46?
27 of 46, yeah.
That's
So they
not
had him
good.
throwing 46 times to Costello's 60. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's a lot of passing attempts for an SEC game.
But that's still only almost at 50%. So that's not good.
No, it's not good.
And I mean, a lot of people were super high on Miles Brennan, saying he's the next coming of Joe Burrow, this and that. And I'm like over here saying, y'all slow down. You LSU fans, it's like you gave it all this one year, win your national championship, and you lost so many pieces. You can't just go expecting the same result.
Yeah.
But
most fans are going to do it, and I've already caught myself doing it quite a bit, is, having your knee-jerk reactions, and you got to think that this is the first week.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of differences, a lot of new stuff going on, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new offensive schemes. They didn't get to do their scrimmages, so there's a lot of rust.
Yeah, I think this will be, as I've seen already in basketball, I'm more the basketball dude, but as I've seen already in basketball, and I think we'll see the same in college football as far as more upsets, let me say it like that. So teams you're not expecting to win will beat certain teams, and we're already kind of seeing that already.
No doubt. Which I think it actually is good for the sport. There's nothing worse than, watching a game and you already pretty much know the outcome, and it's entertaining to a certain degree, but who doesn't like the good underdog coming up? So like Mississippi State, like not a lot of people gave them a chance to win. I think we all had LSU winning. I can't remember who all picked what, but I love it. I love rooting for the underdog most of the time, as long as it's not one of my teams, and it's more entertaining that way.
But I will say, I'm not sure if you wrote this down or not, Jeremy, but I'm pretty sure I took the under on this one. Did you write it down? Mississippi State LSU.
I don't know, man. I'd have to go look.
No. Anyway, moving on. We'll talk about one of the earlier games in the day real quick, as much as I don't want to talk about it.
No, you want
Florida and Ole Miss.
Yeah, Florida, Ole Miss. There was a lot of offense in this game as well. 51-35, Florida took it. First takeaway for me, and I got to watch quite a bit of it, was Kyle Trask looked really good. So offensively, Florida looked good, and then I was wondering where was the defense that's supposed to be their strong suit, allowing 35 points on the board with Ole Miss.
Ole Miss was creative in their offensive production, though. I'll give them that, and that's kind of something we expected to see from Lane Kiffin anyway.
Yep.
But speaking on Florida's defense, they weren't especially impressive, but the Florida offense did look good. But leave it to Florida to have a Kyle-to-Kyle connection for touchdowns. That's the douchiest thing I've ever – yeah, Kyle to Kyle. Florida is Kyle.
Kyle. Yeah, Kyle
Pitts. Kyle Pitts looked phenomenal.
Pitts, yeah.
Kyle Pitts is he's like the little Gronkowski out there.
He really was. Kyle Pitts had 8 receptions for 170 yards and 4 touchdowns.
That's insane.
His
I heard
longest.
he's pretty big too, like pretty tall.
Like 6'10" or something like that.
Yeah,
and you're just
6'10".
like, man, like stupid tall.
6'10".
This guy's huge. This guy's huge.
He's
a monster.
He's 6'6".
That's close. That's real close.
240.
I'm sorry. It's like the David and Goliath story. Like I know we got to play him coming up, and I'm like, he's 8 foot tall, weighs 350 pounds.
He's huge.
But 6'6" is still pretty tall for a football player.
He's huge.
A receiver.
He's a big guy. He's a tight end.
All tight end.
He's aggressive. And
Speaking of aggressive.
whoa! He just crept up on you, bro.
He did. I gave him hand signals there. He still walked up in here.
It was like I'm not wearing a shirt.
No, he left.
But anyway, Gators, I think you have
any hand signals.
He said, I don't know what that meant.
Gators fans, I think you have a good season to look forward to, an exciting season. This offense looks good under Dan Mullen. I will say, honestly, they look really good for the first time since Mullen's been there. It was against the Ole Miss defense, so we'll see how they stack up against a little bit tougher competition. But moving on, Kentucky-Auburn. This game was a little closer than some thought it would be. But keep in mind, both teams were ranked, and it was a pretty good defensive game in the first half for sure. It was the final score was 29 Auburn, 13 Kentucky. What do you guys think the ramifications are for Kentucky after this game?
I think they're basically who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so, they ran the ball really well. Terry Wilson looked okay passing. He was 24-37 for 239 and a touchdown. He also had a pick. His quarterback rating was 71.2. But it was really the rushing attack. Auburn's defense looked pretty good. I think Kentucky had a hard time converting on third down. And I would still put them about the middle of the pack as far as the SEC East goes. I think they'll give some teams a big matchup nightmare. But they may be too one-dimensional to really make a lot of noise in the East.
Well, Auburn really got me. They've got me rethinking my Tennessee Kentucky pick that I made, because their defense was really stout for most of the game, and their offense wasn't terrible. They looked better than I thought they would.
They're good.
But
they're good. Not really good. They're good.
But this game was like super low scoring until like middle of the third quarter. It was just it was ugly.
The box score, they had Kentucky had a touchdown. Auburn had a touchdown with a 2-point conversion in the first. No scores through the second. And then in the third, Kentucky had scored 6. Auburn scored 7. And then fourth quarter, where it really matters, Auburn scored 2 touchdowns. Kentucky couldn't get it done. No touchdowns, no scores, no field goal.
And part of that, I think, is probably conditioning and just changing up the offensive scheme a little bit, which is something that Gus Malzahn brought in Chad Morris to do. So,
and that's one thing we'd be remiss if we didn't at least speak Bo Nix. He played pretty good. He definitely looked like he's still a fantastic quarterback. He was 16-27. They didn't really pass a ton, but he did hit 3 touchdowns, threw for over 200 yards, and ran it for 34. So,
Kwesi, you got anything on this game, brother?
No. Pretty much Kentucky, I expect them to be, like you said, who we thought they were. I think they will be in the middle of the pack and get some sneaky wins.
No doubt. And I will say, because we did our Kentucky video, it was Kwesi Smoke who had their lone score there.
And he looked good. He looks good.
I just love the name, man. He did look good. I just love the name. Kwesi Smoke.
Yeah, and I had a buddy over, and we were kind of flipping around through games, and we saw that one. He said, "What was his name?" And I said, "Yo, check it out." Kwesi Smoke. Moving on to another relatively low-scoring game to start it out. I got to rep my Georgia Bulldogs. This game was not beautiful in the first half. We had a quarterback change. I thought we were going to have 2 quarterback changes. But when we went in to the locker room at halftime, the score was 7 Arkansas, 5 Georgia. Georgia coming up with a field goal and a safety.
Yeah.
And this was the ugliest first half of football I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It was bad.
Ugly.
It was really ugly. There was a lot of rust there. Wasn't impressed with Georgia right off the bat. I'll tell you what, especially with DeJuan Mathis. So all the hype around Mathis, you could tell when he was in, he is not ready to play. So he must have been practicing really well, but when Stetson Bennett came in, he looked the part. He was 20 of 29 for 211, 2 touchdowns, where DeJuan Mathis was 8 of 17 for 55 and a pick. And even that, it looked worse on the field than that stat line to me.
Well, let me throw you this. Stetson Bennett was a walk-on, dude.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
JT Daniels not cleared yet. I think we're expecting him to play next week versus Auburn maybe. And DeJuan Mathis, man, like this kid's story, you know, he had brain surgery last year. He came back from that, you know, had a brain tumor removed. And, you know, everybody had these high hopes for him. And I think he's extremely mobile and he's very talented. He was just very shaken in this game. Couldn't really get it done. Couldn't command the offense. And
what do you think the quarterback situation going to be next week?
I think we'll probably start with Stetson Bennett, and I think we'll transition into JT Daniels probably because it's Auburn next week. So that's a big test.
Exactly.
That's a big test.
The second half of the game, though, Georgia's offense came alive. Their defense stood the test and, you know, held up because, you know, it was kind of we saw what we expected out of Georgia's defense. I think there were 3 interceptions thrown, 2 to Richard LeCount. 1 was for a pick 6. There was a lot of havoc created on the defense. So the defense kept us in this game against Arkansas. Let me say that. Against Arkansas.
Yeah.
But I think I will say, I give credit where credit's due. Arkansas looked fire that first half, man. They played intense. They played hard. And I think they may be a little better than we thought. Just because, I mean, like last season, we just saw a broken Arkansas team that just didn't even look like they believed in themselves, and they came out, man, ready to fight.
Yeah, but I think we mentioned in our past videos that when we did Georgia, that it was going to be the defense of Georgia that was going to help them get through certain games. So this is probably definitely one of them that kept them afloat and finally pushed them over.
But we look to see this offense come alive like they did in the second half.
I think it will later on, you know, but that defense was definitely going to help them in the first couple of games.
Yes.
It's definitely a tale of 2 halves. I mean, Georgia, once you found it with Stetson Bennett, you know, he scored 32 in the second half. 32-3 in the second half, you know, that's pretty good. And but Felipe Franks coming over from Florida for Arkansas, they did look like they were poised to maybe make a good run at Georgia there for a minute. They never could really get it done, and they made a lot of mental errors, so they couldn't capitalize, and they really fell apart in the second half.
I will say, aside from the interceptions, as much as I hate to admit it because I really don't like Felipe Franks, he actually looked really good.
Too bad. He looked about what he usually did. His quarterback rating was a 43.6, which I feel is a little bit lower than what I saw with my own eyes. He was 19 to 36 for 200, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and he was throwing an average of 5.6.
I thought it was 3.
He threw 2. Treylon Burks threw 1.
Oh, okay. Well, moving on, speaking of defense, as Kwesi was alluding to the Georgia defense there, let's talk about another game that really, really surprised me. And I only saw bits and pieces of this one. But I don't know the whole story of this game. But number 10, Texas A&M versus Vanderbilt. The final score was 17 Texas A&M, 12 Vanderbilt.
Yeah, man. So I didn't get to watch this game either, but I did watch the highlights today. And I tell you what, Vandy looked pretty impressive. Their freshman quarterback, Ken Seals, was not bad. He was 20 of 29 for 150, 1 touchdown. Wow. He did throw 2 picks, and you know, the 2 picks, especially one, was not good. One, it hit a receiver like in the shoulder, or like a DB came up and hit it, and it went way up in the air. Yeah. The other one was definitely on him. So really, he threw one that was his fault. And they looked good. It was methodical. They had a pretty good defense going out there, and Texas A&M just looked like they were really sloppy, like they didn't get up for the game. And when they were on offense, they just, you know, they looked good. They just weren't sustaining drives, and they weren't hitting a ton of big plays. So Texas A&M a little underwhelming on offense.
Let me bring this up. I mean, you know, Texas A&M has the most returning starters out of any SEC team. They have continuity at quarterback. They have the same head coach. There was no coaching change. We expected like a surprise run at a conference title for Texas A&M.
Possibly, yeah.
Their number one wide receiver opted out a couple weeks back. What was his name? Osborne or Obson. Whatever his name was. But anyway, I mean, the thing is, though, like Vandy, they did about what we expected them to do. They scored 12 points. But Texas A&M's offense, man, why are you not clicking? You should have had really the most experienced starter in the SEC at quarterback. You know, you're playing at home. I know we don't have fans, not many fans. But, I mean, like I just expected a lot more than this. Are we looking at this game and ready to, like, wipe our hands of the A&M hype?
I wouldn't. Maybe the hype. I mean, hype is what it is, you know. But to me, it looked like just first game jitters. I mean, they had, like, 3 lost fumbles. No interceptions, but like Keller Mond didn't really impress. He was 17 of 28 for 189. 189. So he threw for under 200, 1 touchdown, no picks. His QBR was 32.2. They just didn't look all that impressive. And to me, I'm not ready to just go ahead and shut it down on Texas A&M. I'll throw it more towards just not getting up competitively, which is kind of alarming in and of itself because that would be completely on coaching against a SEC foe, even if it is Vandy. And I don't know. I'll have to wait till next week to actually say definitively I'm ready to shut the door on Texas A&M.
Yeah, and that wide receiver that opted out is Osborne, AUSBON.
Yes, Jamon Osborne. That's it.
No receiver in the game had more than 4 receptions. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
And the final game of the week, I'm sure Jeremy's got a lot to say about this one. Number 16, Tennessee at South Carolina. The final score was 31-27. I saw bits and pieces of this one. I know Tennessee came up with a big pick 6. And what are your thoughts on this one, Jeremy?
Oh, man, it was kind of the same thing. When I'm talking about rust, I mean, you can tell where every game I've seen pretty much, there was only one team that really looked polished, and that was Alabama. Everybody else looked pretty rusty, trying to figure some things out. Tennessee's got a lot of new faces on offense for receiver. Our O-line kind of underwhelmed a little bit, but when we did stick to running the football, we did well. Garantano's the same quarterback that we've seen his entire career, which
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, he made some good throws, and then other ones. He missed a lot of throws high, at least 4 by my count, just watching it, not really doing a recap.
Mm-hmm.
And throwing at a receiver instead of leading him where he needs to be, you know, putting it right on their back shoulder when they're trying to run up instead of putting it right in front. But excuse me. But some of our new faces look pretty good. Velus Jones Jr. looked good. Ramel Keaton, he's not new. He's a new starter. He did well. Josh Palmer had a big catch. Brandon Johnson had a SportsCenter top 5 catch with a one-hander in the first quarter to get to sustain our first drive to get a touchdown. And I tell you what, Colin Hill looked pretty good, quarterback for South Carolina. It was just a really good dogfight.
Yeah. Do you see any changes in quarterback for Tennessee or the Vols, or do you think they're going to ride him out?
They'll ride him out. We'll see. You know, with JG, if it's anything like what we've seen in the past, it's more the fact that he's a starter because he's smart. You know, he protected the football pretty well. He held on to it a little bit too long. He took a couple sacks, but he had no turnovers. You know, he made plays when he absolutely had to.
Yeah.
So, you know, and behind him, even though we got Maurer and Shrout and they had playing time last year and we got the freshman Harrison Bailey, they're still not as safe. So Garantano's more of the safe pick. So I doubt it. Unless he starts playing really terrible, which is possible. I'd say we'll still roll out with JG.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And, I mean, hopefully he grows a little bit as the season goes on. His offensive line's a little bit better. Maybe he settles in a little more. But like you said, Harrison Bailey, I expect him to get a significant amount of playing time, I think. Every chance they can throw him in, I think, when the game's kind of under control, I think they will. Kind of like we saw with Alabama yesterday and Bryce Young. But that's our last game. I'm sorry. I thought Tennessee was our last game, but we got one left.
Yeah, we do. That's okay. I mean, I would have loved to have been up on South Carolina like Alabama was against Missouri, but And we would have played more people because I would love to see Harrison Bailey. I'd love to have seen him. And I think a lot of people love to hate anyway, but JG certainly deserved it at times. But I think they just, it's always grass is greener on the other side of the fence. We know what he's got talent-wise. We want to see him. And I'd have loved to have seen him in garbage time just to get the experience. Unfortunately, it was a really close game all the way. And we actually won on the last we had to punt on our last drive, and a nice little
hit a guy.
roller.
Yeah, I seen that.
Hit a South Carolina player on the leg, and we recovered, and then we were able to kneel it out. It's getting real chippy down there on the line, too. South Carolina was not happy.
I'm sure they weren't. They thought they were going to get the big upset win.
I guess all that matters is the Vols ended up on top of the Cox.
Hey, they beat those Cox, dog.
Hey, they beat the hell out of them Cox. Anyway.
So rolling into our last SEC game, there's a couple others I want to mention on here. But our last SEC game was Alabama and Missouri, and that game ended up 38-19. Missouri started to score a little bit late. It looked like when Alabama kind of put in their second string, letting those guys get some reps. So the score doesn't actually reflect the control of the game, I don't think.
No, it does not. If they wanted to, Alabama could have won this game 88-10.
Yeah.
They were at halftime. It was 28-3. I think they pulled after their next touchdown in that game. They went ahead and pulled Mac Jones. He was 18-24 for 249 and two touchdowns.
Yeah.
With a 95.2 quarterback rating. He looked fantastic. Their pocket was clean. He was throwing dimes. Najee Harris looked really good.
Yes. I was going to say that. Najee Harris, 17 carries, 98 yards, 3 touchdowns. But he had some receptions as well. But both of the receiving touchdowns went to Jalen Waddle.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Waddle was
Jalen
amazing.
Waddle's he's stupid. He's a human joystick, man.
Jalen Waddle, 8 receptions. 8 receptions, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 46 being the longest reception. That's a 16.8 average per reception. It's ridiculous.
Needless to say, Alabama is the same old Alabama. They were probably one of the only top teams in the SEC that didn't have any rust to shake off. Nick Saban was polished and ready for this game.
They looked good.
That's what we've come to expect.
Yeah. I know Stingley's not excited about that.
No.
There goes his record prediction of undefeated, huh?
Yeah, somebody go check on Stingray. Anybody down there in Mississippi, go check on him. Make sure he's not down there ringing his cowbells after that Mississippi State win.
He's switching back over to Mississippi.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Mac Jones, he looked all right. One thing, when you were talking about throwing receivers open with JG, that was one thing I noticed that Mac Jones wasn't doing last night. I saw his receivers getting receptions, and a lot of times they would just take big shots right off the bat. And I'm just like, man, he just got ripped in half. And sometimes I feel like that's not necessarily something you can just teach. It's just something they see when they visualize the field. And Mac Jones, he's probably a little better than your run-of-the-mill SEC quarterback, but I don't think he's top-tier, top-notch, anything. He's just got a lot of weapons around him.
I think he's more of your prototypical Alabama quarterback. It's what you're really traditionally used to seeing there. And it's a game manager type, they'll play a lot of play action, clean pocket, and still able to make all the throws, and people will downplay the quarterback because the talent around him so much. But I think he's a really good quarterback from what I've seen, even coming in last year for the hurt Tua. That's the thing is people want to compare him to Tua Tagovailoa, but Tua is a dynamic football player with his legs and with his arm and makes plays. That's just not Mac Jones. But he's still good. He's still really good. I think I would like to see him, unfortunately.
We are running short on time, so I'm going to throw these out real quick. Notre Dame had to postpone their game, number 7 Notre Dame versus Wake Forest, due to COVID complications. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But another team I want to talk about, the last one, well, 2, I guess. BYU destroyed Troy 48-7, and this is BYU's second huge win. I think BYU might be for real.
Play against Troy.
But dude, their last game against Navy, man, they shut them out. BYU's only allowed 7 points this entire season. 2 games in, they are killing it. They look really good.
It did look really
It's two
good.
community colleges, man.
But like Kwesi said, to Kwesi's point, I'd like to see him play some better competition.
Yeah,
But they do look good. I saw their highlights. They looked.
Now Miami looked good.
You read my mind. I was going to Miami next.
They're 2-0 right now. They destroyed.
3-0.
I guess 3-0.
3-0.
They didn't just beat FSU, which is in their conference. They kind of destroyed them.
They demoralized.
Good rivalry for them too.
So I'm buying the Miami hype this year, guys. I love De'Aaron King. I love this offense. I love their swagger. I like Miami.
There was turnover chains everywhere.
I want to see them duke it out.
I like that chain.
I want to see them duke it out with with Notre Dame and Clemson for the ACC crown. I don't necessarily think they have what it takes to hang with Clemson, but man, they are fun to watch.
This is the year, man. Who knows? ACC looks pretty good. They got a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but they've got some good football teams over there. I'm looking forward to seeing the Big Ten started up.
Yeah, me too.
We got a little bit. What is that? 2 more weekends?
Kwesi.
Yeah,
two more.
I'm waiting for them too.
Well, anyway, guys, we'll do our week 3 coming up here soon. We'll kind of preview some of the games for you, let you know what we think is going to happen, how much of these trends are going to hold, who's still going to have a little rust to knock off, and who's going to surprise you. But as always, thanks for tuning in to the 3-Man Blitz.
Yes, sir.
And go for 3.
Go for 3, guys.